Alright YouTube, well it's been a while since you've seen much from me. Actually almost a year now, but today I'm planning on making a video for you. We're going to go ahead and do the 400-hour service on my Kubota MX5400. This tractor's got about 417 hours on it now. It's been great to me so far, but it is slightly overdue for that 400-hour service. So if you want to stick with me today, I'm going to go ahead and get it cleaned up, washed off, and then we'll go ahead and get into the service. Stick with me. So, quick tip, super clean. This stuff is all that I use on my grease fittings. Everywhere that I have to put grease in the tractor. I don't clean this tractor very often, but when I do, I like to get the old grease off because it's got a bunch of dirt and dust and all that junk in it. And I pressure wash it and get water down in there. So I like to clean all the old grease out. The number one thing I found to do that is super clean. I mix it up in a little spray bottle. About 3/4 super clean, the rest water, but it works really well for getting that old grease out. The only thing you need to be aware of is after you clean all the old grease off, when you go to re-grease the tractor, make sure you push a lot of new grease through to clean out any grease that's inside those joints that may be broken down by the degreaser. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is move this plug right here. This is your transmission fluid. On the manual transmission, there's actually another one right here that you remove. You don't have to do that on the HST. And then under the back hub, there's two on the inside of either side that you're going to have to drain. But we'll go ahead and get this one going first. I'm just using a 5-gallon bucket. Remember, you're going to have close to 10 gallons of fluid that comes out of here. So my plan is to get this one going with this bucket, and then once it's almost full, I'll just put the plug back in and grab another bucket. We'll see how well that works. About 3/4 there. Go ahead and get that plug back in. Grab a rag and then I'll drag this out of here. Set this one under. Get this plug back out. I might have to grab one more bucket. Alright, now while we wait for the transmission to finish draining, we can go ahead and get our oil going. And for your oil drain plugs, you got two because your PTO shaft divides your oil pan in the middle. So you got a drain plug on each side of your PTO shaft going to your front axle. Just be careful when you're taking out these bolts. They all do have washers. You don't want to lose them in your bucket or your oil pan or any of that. That's all there is to draining your oil. It does help to vent it by either opening up your oil fill cap or having the filter off. I'll go ahead and pull the filler cap. Alright, now that we got everything draining, we can come over to this side of the tractor. This is your oil filter, fuel filter, water separator. You got the oil fluid draining. This is your fill cap, so I just vented this so that would help that drain. Now to get this off, it should just be hand tight. Let me grab a rag real quick. It should be hand tight when you replace it. You're just supposed to go until it makes contact and then go like another half turn, I think. So this one came off real easy. You're gonna lose a bunch of fluid there. Alright. It's your old filter. I always like to make sure that my part numbers match with new filters. I got these straight from the dealer, but they do match. So and you can just let that drain into your pan there and just clean up around here where this is gonna keep oozing for a minute. Now that that's off, we can open our new one. Grab some clean oil. And you just want to take some clean oil and put it around your rubber gasket here just so it makes a good seal. And this just screws back on. Careful you don't cross thread anything. It's pretty tight with these hoses right here. Yeah, difficult to see. There it goes. So you just go there until it makes contact. And then you go another half turn. This thing's covered with oil, so it's pretty slick, but go until it makes contact, and then go about another half turn. About like that. Now we'll go back underneath, put our plugs back into the bottom of the drain pan. We're good to replace the engine oil. Alright, now that we got the oil drains plugs back in, we can go ahead and replace our engine oil. This is an impossible step to do without a funnel. So get you a funnel that fits down in here like so. And this takes 7 liters of oil. I usually put about 1.5 gallons in and then start the tractor, let it run for a second and check it on a dipstick and go from there. Alright, so here's your dipstick right here. Put 1 gallon in, see if it even registers. There's 2 marks on your dipstick, one here and one here. As long as it's in between there, you're good. After 1 gallon, we're barely, well, not quite to that bottom line. So, you know it's going to take quite a bit more. So that's about 1.5 gallons, so we'll just check it again. And we're about 1/3 of the way up to the bottom, so we'll add a little bit more and then we'll run it for a second and see where it levels out at. Alright, so that's about halfway. So take this out, put the cap back on, and then we'll run the, well, we actually can't run the tractor yet because I haven't finished doing the transmission or the hydraulic fluid change yet. So once we complete that, we'll run the tractor for a second. Alright, so You can see I put the other plug back in that had finished draining. So now we're going to drain these back hubs. Your 2 drain plugs for you, well, one for each side. One's here and one's here. So crack these loose. And I'll get these draining. And these also have small little washers on them that you don't want to lose. I'd rather not go digging in that bucket for a washer. Alright, now that one's drained, we can put the plug back in. You can see what I'm doing. And go to the side. Alright, now that one's done draining, put this plug back in. And we'll tighten it up. So on this side we have our hydraulic fluid filter. And it's always a good idea to have some kind of drain pan under there. And just because this one's awkward to get to, it helps to have something to grab it, just to loosen it. And then once it's loosened, you can get it. Alright, now this filter has a magnetic ring in it. And if you look, let me see if I can get it to focus on this. You can just see a couple really fine filaments of metal on that. Every time you do this filter change, you should see less and less of that. But, for example, if I just like bring my finger around it, you can see those are just ultra fine metal shavings, and they just get stuck to that metal ring. I'm sorry, that magnetic ring. For some reason the manual says to clean that magnet and reuse it, but every time I've bought a filter from Kubota, it comes with a new magnet. So just verify that your magnet, sometimes that magnet will get stuck to that inside ring, so verify that that did not happen. But also, just for some reason, if you buy aftermarket filters or whatnot, make sure that you reuse that metal ring. Now sometimes you'll see pictures or video guides that have a ton of metal built up on that ring. You're supposed to change that filter at, I believe, 50 hours. And mine had more metal than that, but it still wasn't significant. And then you change it again at 200 hours. And then now you change it again at 400 hours. And every time I've pulled it, it's had less and less metal on it. Stick a rag in here and clean up this sealing surface. Make sure there's no dirt or anything on it. And then grab some clean fluid. And again, just wipe some clean fluid on that gasket just to help it adhere. Make sure your magnet's in place. And screw this one back on. also wipe this grease off here so I can actually turn it. Contact it and then go half a turn. And that's just about a half a turn. Alright, now on the other side of the tractor we have our transmission filter. Just pull the drain pan over into this one. Again, just because it's kind of difficult to get to, I like to use a filter wrench just to start loosening it. Alright. Go ahead and just unscrew. Alright, and again, we just want to verify that we're putting the same filter back in the same place. This one does not have a magnetic ring. And if you check filter number 59900, and we have 59900, so we know we're putting the correct filter back in. And you can see how easy it is to spin on once you get it right. You should never have to force thread the filter on. Now that we have drained our transmission hydraulic fluid, we have replaced both the hydraulic fluid filter and the HST filter. We can go ahead and fill this thing up with hydraulic fluid. Now for this I use the Kubota recommended Super UDT2. Now all of these parts with the fluid and everything, so fuel filter, oil filter, hydraulic filter, and transmission filter, plus I think I got 12.5 gallons of UDT2, ran me right about $550. Now this is I think March 11th or 12th 2022, and prices are only going up on everything right now, so your mileage may vary. Just want to show you guys this little filler window down here. It's kind of hard to see and it can be especially difficult to see your fluid in it. But that little window right there is your sight window for the level of your hydraulic fluid. And anywhere inside that window is acceptable. I usually try to keep it right in the middle just because it's easiest to see there. But we've got about 7.5 gallons in the tractor now, so on this 2.5 gallon jug I'll pay a little closer attention to that window and make sure I'm not overfilling it, just because it can be difficult to see. So now we're a little over halfway up that window. So like I said, we'll put the cap back on and run the tractor for about 2 minutes without moving it. Once we're done that, we'll again check the level of the transmission fluid, and at the same time we'll check the level of the engine oil, make sure that hasn't dropped at all. Alright, so I let the tractor run for about 2 minutes. And we're just going to pull the dipstick out. Check the engine oil again, see if I need to top it off or not. And no, I'm about 3/4 of the way up the stick, so I'm happy with that. Now, if we come back to the back, within the first 10 or 15 seconds of the tractor running, the level in that sight glass dropped almost completely to the bottom, and now it's about 1/4 of the way up now that I've shut it off and it's settled. So I'm going to add Got probably another 3/4 of a gallon left in that jug, so might be able to add all that. I'm not sure. We'll see. Right there, I'm about halfway up the window, so I'd say in total I added probably close to, I don't know, 9.5 gallons of fluid back to it. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is pull this water separator off. This is your fuel shut off right here. Down, pointing down means your fuel is on. So to turn your fuel off, you just turn it 90 degrees. This little sensor coming out of the bottom of the cup is just a little water level sensor. Okay, so push that little tab and that'll pop right out. Then your cup here just unscrews. It's pretty tight. And that will be completely full of fluid. This filter just kind of sticks on there. Let me get this off first so I don't spill fuel everywhere. Yeah, spill fuel everywhere like that. Alright, so y'all can see all the junk that came out of the bottom of this cup. Got a few different pieces to it. This part's got a little screen, a little microfilament in here. It says to clean this out with kerosene. I'm just going to use some fresh diesel. But if you look down in the bottom of that cup, there's all kinds of sediment and junk that was down in here. You want to save this O-ring, make sure it's in good condition. If it's not, you can get a replacement for that. This is a water drain plug, so if you ever do get water in it, you can just pull this plug and it'll drain the... This red ring is your float ring, so as you get water in it, this will float up. Fuel will stay on top, your water will stay on bottom, so you can just pull that and the water will drain out. But it's definitely due for a cleaning, that's for sure. Alright, so I just got some fresh diesel. You can see the screens on this. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Have quite a bit of sediment in them. So that's all we're trying to clean out of this is get that sediment out, and then in the bottom of this cup you can see it had quite a large amount of sediment in it, so we're just trying to get that cleaned up, and we're just going to use some fresh diesel and a little brush to get in there. Have to be a little bit careful of that sensor that's in there, but we just kind of want to get this moving around and loosened up. Alright, so now we got this cleaned up pretty good. If you can see, it's much cleaner than it was. There's actually two layers of filament. There's a filament on the outside, and then inside there's a whole nother layer of filament, so some of that's caught in between, but I got the great majority of it out. Now this is your water float ring. This just floats up and down on the bottom of this, and the whole thing just goes back down on here, and then that will just go back in the tractor. Make sure that you have your O-ring on top. I'll take you over and we'll show you that. Alright, so again, this just screws back on. Lined up. Again, we're just going hand tight, not over tightening anything here. Take your little water sensor, plug it back in here. Alright, that's plugged in. I gotta grab a Phillips head and we'll vent the top of this and pump that back full of fuel. So now we got the cup back on. I'm gonna go ahead, turn the fuel back on. Then you've got a couple nuts on the top here. This top one is your vent screw. You gotta unplug, unscrew that one about 2 turns. 1, 2. You'll see some fuel start going into the cup. I'm gonna let that fill the cup for just a second. Once that's full, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the fuel back off, and we're gonna change the fuel filter, and then we'll purge the whole system of air at one time. Alright, so we got the cup back on. It's mostly filled with fuel. Fuel shut back off. Now we're gonna go ahead and pull the fuel filter off. If I can get to it, there's so many wires in here. screw the new filter back on. So now that we got the new fuel filter on, fuel has been shut off, I'll go ahead and turn the fuel back on. And this is the vent plug on top of the fuel filter. I'm going to loosen that about 2 turns. So 1, 2. And then if you look just to the left of your oil filled plug, you've got a little pump back in here behind all this wiring. And you're going to have to pump that about 60 times. And once you're done pumping that about 60 times, you want to immediately tighten this vent plug. Alright, so let's see if this puppy starts. Now once you start it, you want to let it run at slightly raised throttle for about a minute or 2 before you open it up. Just wanted to show you guys real quick. This is what it looks like after I clean it up with the grease. There's literally no grease. Well, I mean, there's a little bit of grease, but there's barely any grease left over. Now, I'm going to wax the tractor before I grease it, just so I don't get grease all over my wax rag. But after I'm done waxing it, I will thoroughly grease that. So I'll grease it until I get good grease coming out of the joints. Then I'll wipe that off. I'll run the loader up and down, for a minute or 2, run it through all of its functions to work that grease in, and then I'll actually go back and, add a little more grease to it. But I'm not going to show you guys everything. Part of your every 50-hour service is, greasing the whole tractor and blowing out your air filters and radiator, and, I got to do the cabin filters. It's for the 400-hour service, and a few other really minor things, but they're all pretty self-explanatory. So I just wanted to walk you guys through the big stuff. Alright, y'all, so this is the day after. I put a quick coat of wax on it today just so I could give you guys a real good walk around of the status of this tractor. There's a lot of people who had concerns, said that this tractor wasn't big enough and it's not the right tool for the job with all the land clearing that I did. So just wanted to give you guys a quick walk around of the status. I haven't broken anything with this tractor. It's never been back to the dealer for anything. It's really been a great tractor. The first thing to go on this was obviously those amber hazard lights that go on the top. I probably broke those off in the first 50 hours of use. It's just all the vines and everything that we had in the woods just catch on those immediately. I really want to find a different kind of bracket that I can kind of swing those back behind the tractor instead of out to the side like that. But now that I'm done most of the land clearing, I'll probably go ahead and replace those. I've just never bothered because I knew I'd break them right back off. As far as everything else on the tractor though, it really is done very well. There's a few very minor things, like I don't know if I can show you guys on this back fender. There's a very minor dent in that fender where a branch or something got wrapped around. There's, you know, all the wear and tear scratches over this. If I can get the light to, on the hood especially, just where branches and stuff ran across the hood. And there's, you know, a minor dent right there, and then down the bottom of the grill. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little hole in the bottom of the grill there where a stick just happened to make it through. But other than that, I haven't damaged anything on this. Well, I take that back. The one other thing that I caught on a tree was that footstep, and it bent it pretty severely, and I bent it back as much as I could. I didn't dare to bend it more than that without breaking it, but that would be a very easy part to replace as well. But really, with the exception of the blinkers and the few little minor dents and dings, this tractor's been great. I have zero complaints about it. Sorry about the wind, guys. I hope you can hear me. But yeah, that's about it. Just wanted to give you guys a quick walk around, status of the tractor, let you know I've been really, really happy with it. With 417 hours on it, it's never given me a single issue. So I hope you guys enjoyed the 400-hour service. I hope it helped some of you out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment and ask, and I'll do my best to get back to you in a timely manner. Thanks, guys.